Welcome back to the Ninth Circle. It's been a minute, hasn't it? It's been about a month since I recorded my last video. I've just been very busy here with new job and stuff like that, so it's kind of maybe a little special Thanksgiving edition here of Collection Erection, because it's been, last time I did one of these was probably back in over the summer. It's been at least 4 months since I've done a Collection Erection. So let's blow the dust off here and talk about some records and some CDs and stuff. First of all, what we're listening to, this is the first album by Septic Flesh, Mystic Places of Dawn, this is an OG press on Holy Records. It was released in '94, so Septic Flesh, Greek death metal. They're still around today. They've become a lot more symphonic. They look totally different. They just look like regular, metal dudes in this one. But now they wear kind of the fancy armor. They kind of look like a cross between Cradle of Filth and Behemoth. And the album artwork, so one of the guys in this band now became a digital artist, and frankly, the album artwork, I think the first album cover that he did for them, I think, was the Sumerian Demons album cover, which was a 2003 album. And I really, really, really hate a lot of their modern artwork. It's pretty bad. But this is this era, the first couple albums are fucking great. This one, like I said, Mystic Places of Dawn, and I'll lead into the next thing here. I recently I've had reissues for 10 years of these early records, the Season to Miss reissues. But I wanted to get some. Came across some OG copies locally, and then this is the second album here, which is in Greek title. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but this is the second album here. Also really good. You can see a picture of the dudes on the back. Also on Holy Records. I believe this is 1995 on this one. Came out in pretty short succession, but Septic Flesh, this early stuff, it's really worth checking out. Really, really great stuff. I think on the Crypt reissued these on vinyl probably maybe, I don't know, 2010, 2011, a few years before the CD reissues on Century Media. So that's what we're listening to right now. Anyway, we'll get into some records here. So we will, let's see, what do we start with? I'm going to break it up real fast into metal, non-metal, punk, and hardcore stuff. Okay, so we'll start with this Funeral Winds record. This is a more recent Funeral Winds album that is on Avant-Garde. This is a 2018 album by them called Sinister Creed. You may know Funeral Winds. They've been around for a really long time. They've been around since probably, since the 90s. And this is I think their, maybe not their most recent, but a fairly recent album from them. And it's just really good black metal. Really, really excoriating, ripping, kind of second wave style black metal. It's on a cool color here. It's on kind of a black and red there, so it's gonna, like I said, this is, it's kind of no frills black metal, truthfully, but it just hits the spot, in classic black metal fashion, super satanic, fast, evil ripping, harsh vocals, that kind of stuff. So not really anything super mind-blowing, but I don't know, I like Funeral Winds, and this was just kind of me picking up a little bit more Funeral Winds stuff. So this, however, and of course, is probably going to be one of my albums of the year. This is the new album by Seelan Beholinen, the Finnish black metal band. Super, super melodic. As I talked about with Mr. Scott from No Solution here, see that there, Sealing the Hole in. All their song titles, all their lyrics are in Finnish, so But they sound like, as I mentioned to him in the comments when he was talking about this album, they sound almost like a cross between Bad Religion and a finished black metal record. Like, imagine, if you will, stuff like Horna mixed with like kind of like the really good era, like Suffer era Bad Religion. It's like super melodic. God, it's just get catchy riffs, get caught in your head. The whole album's great. I mean, I own pretty much everything by this band, and I don't really foresee myself not continuing to enjoy their records and buying everything they put out, you know. So again, you know, there's, you know, again, results may vary for this and stuff like that, but I really like Seal and Beholden, and it's really a cool band worth checking out, you know. Nothing bad to say there. Alright, continuing with black metal. Here's a band that I really haven't heard anybody else talk about. This is on Sentient Ruin. This came out this year. This is Lucifixion, with their very first record that is called, let's see if I can read it here. We'll take this out of the sleeve. The album is called, fucking A, I can't read it. Trisect Joys of Pierced Hearts. Sorry, it's in that kind of old English font, so my fucking decrepit old eyes have a hell of a time reading it, but really cool artwork. And again, this is like a three-piece black metal band here. This is their first full length. They previously released a demo on Sentient Ruin. I think last year in 2022 they released the demo on Sentient Ruin. And again, this is very lo-fi black metal, you know, and it has kind of that, it fits into the raw category, but it's got really good riffs and, you know, harsh screaming and everything, and of course super satanic lyrics, as you always want out of black metal. It's, fuck man, I was gonna try to read song titles, but again, with that, like I said, the fucking old English font. Sometimes when you're looking at old English font, it's really, really hard to actually make out what is being written there. It's just, you know, and I'm kind of tired too, so I think that's not helping me any, trying to make it so I can read that stuff. But I think this band, I think this band, I believe, is from, I want to say they're Dutch. I want to say they're from either Denmark or the Netherlands, but I should have done a little more research on that. I did not do the research on it, and I kind of just decided to wing it this time because, fuck man, it's been a month, and I really, really, really felt like I needed to get back into the mix here. So, alright, Lucifixion. Alright, now we're going to get into some non-metal stuff here. So, we're going to go with this new album by Maggot Heart, Hunger. This is on Spark Records. So, this is, I would call this post-punk largely. Maybe there's almost a vibe at times of like post-punk meets maybe like the Stooges a little bit. So you've got, in this band, here we go, try to get no glare. You've got Linnea Olsen, who was in The Oath with Joanna from Lucifer, who's now in Lucifer. So the other two members of this band, Olivia Airy and Uno Bruneson, I'm not sure what else they're from actually, but so I want to say this might be like probably their second or third full length here. But again, her vocal style is much different than it was in The Oath. Like I said, it kind of lends more to sort of like, at times I hear a bit of like kind of an Iggy Pop influence in some of her vocal styles and stuff. Almost sometimes maybe a little bit of like Nico from the Velvet Underground era, but the music itself solidly feels like it comes out of the late 70s or early 80s kind of UK scene. It's a little more dissonant. It's not like, you know, there's some post-punk stuff that's kind of more, that has kind of more of a melodic, melancholy feel. This doesn't really feel melancholic so much. It's just kind of jarring. The bass is really prominent, you know, and that's kind of the it's kind of slower and more despondent, so that's kind of where I get the post-punk vibe from it, but it's a really good album if you like that kind of stuff. I would say the songs that stood out to me, I really like This Shadow, and Parasite and Scandinavian Hunger. Those three songs in particular, really good stuff. So I would recommend Maggot Heart. It's on Smart Records. Shouldn't be that hard to find. Like I said, if you kind of like some of that, like a weird mix of like proto-punk and like post-punk stuff that isn't super melodic, but like I said, it is kind of like, is sort of, it's kind of jarring and kind of atypical, that would be my recommendation there. Okay, next, something else non-metal. This is the new album by Slowdive that is called Everything is Alive. So as I talked about in one of my previous videos, how I really have a tendency to like a lot of shoegaze stuff from the 90s, Slowdive was kind of one of the prototypical shoegaze bands of the 90s. Their album Soblaki is like considered a classic of the genre. So this is the album that came out this year, and this sees there's a lot more male vocals on this, like, and there's also, you get a little bit of like kind of electronica stuff, but it's still really good, kind of dreamy. It has dreamy pop atmospheres, and haunting female vocals that appear and everything like that. It definitely does justice to the legacy of Slowdive. If you're into any of that stuff, think along the lines of a little bit of the stuff like Lush and things like that. Hints of stuff like kind of Swerve Driver and things also in those lines. But it really still feels like it doesn't feel dated, but it still definitely pays. It's the lineage of the 90s of this band is still strong in this. So, I was going to say songs. I really liked A Life, Kisses, Prayer Remembered. All really good shit on here. So, Slowdive, Everything is Alive, excellent record. They played here recently. They played here back in, I think it was September, with Drab Majesty, and I ended up missing it. Wish I had not missed it, because I really like both those bands, but anyway, then we're going to talk about a few punk records here, a couple punk records that I picked up. So this is Intention with Brand New Story. This is a Japanese hardcore band. You'll notice the Sugi artwork, classic Japanese hardcore artist and musician. So I'll take this out here. You can see the whole cover kind of in its entirety. I'll try to peek under there. But really cool shit. He always does great stuff. I'll show you the insert as well, or the inside as well there. Pictures of the band. I mean, and this, if you know classic Japanese hardcore, if you want, stuff that it sounds like stuff like Death Side and Gauze a little bit, stuff along those lines. You can't go wrong with this. It's got an element of melody to it, but it's not overly melodic. Good production, excellent screaming vocals. It's just kind of like your classic Japanese hardcore, which I'm a sucker for. I can never get enough Japanese hardcore, and this is just another great record in that. I had never really heard this band before. I had never heard Intention before. This is on Beach Impediment as well, which is interesting because I feel like Beach Impediment doesn't typically put out a lot of Japanese hardcore stuff, but it's cool to see them kind of dip into that. And I got this through Havoc Records when I was getting the next record I'm going to show you, and we're going to talk about here. This is a band, I have everything else by this band, but this was like their second record, and I had somehow never managed to pick it up. I had never come across it. This is Dysphere with Everyday Slaughter. This is their second album. I'll take it out of here. I got the limited edition version. I think there were like, I want to say 100 of these made that came with this bonus 7-inch where it has the Discharge cover of Realities of War, and it has I can't remember another cover of a song called Another Greedy Killing, which I can't quite remember who did that. But it's really short. Both of these songs are probably about 2 minutes long, if that. But that's really cool. It's a gatefold as well here. Get pictures of the band. Later on their third and fourth record, this band absorbed members of the Swedish death metal scene. You had Thomas Lindberg joined as the vocalist, and he was the vocalist on the last 2 records, which were, I think, Misanthropic Generation and Live the Storm. And also Uffe Sederlund of Entomb fame was a guitarist during that point. So these guys, they're Swedish, of course. But I really like the first 2 records. They were much more of kind of like a D-beat crust band. Yeah, a slight hint of kind of that Swedish death metal vibe, but they were more of a straight-up D-beat crust band during this period of time. This band is defunct now because I believe the one like really original member who had been in this, Frykman, who was the bassist, I believe he died of cancer a number of years ago. So I don't think Dysphere is active or ever going to put anything else out again. But this was a much needed repress. This was originally released, I think, in '97 on Kron H Records, which I think was an offshoot of Osmos. It was kind of like more of like a crusty punk kind of imprint for Osmos, I want to say. So really good stuff. Again, you've got some serious Discharge influence, but you can hear also some of the like death metal vibes, Swedish death metal vibes creeping in to this as well. Alright, and let's see, a few other CDs I wanted to show. Like I said, I showed those Septic Death CDs. Those were part of the same haul. There's 3 other ones I'll show real quickly. So there's a seller, like I said, a local seller on Discogs, named Barnyard Rebel, and this interesting story with him is like, so his father was like a lifelong music collector. He used to work for a local record store that was called the Heavy Metal Shop. That's still around, but he used to work there. He used to be, and he passed away, long story short, in 2020. And he had a huge CD collection, something like over 25,000 CDs. And his son, who goes by the name Barnyard Rebel on Discogs, has been slowly selling off his collection over the last few years. And there's a lot of rare stuff. There's a lot of cool shit that he has sold off. So I've made a handful of purchases over the last couple, 2.5, 3 years, getting that. So that's where I got those Septic Death records from. And then I got these next 3 as well. So this is Rise, Life into Everblack. So Rise were a death metal band from LA. This is their debut EP. This was released, I think, in 1995. It is on Wild Rags. So, I mean, here's the thing about this. Ben Smasher, he was playing this a few months ago in a video. And it made me remember, like, oh shit, I need to get this. The full length, their one full length has been on my want list for a while, but I haven't been able to find it. But this popped up locally, and I had to get it. So, I mean, this is kind of like No Frills, C-grade death metal from the mid-90s, but if you're like me, I fucking love that shit. Like, the first song onto this, the title track, Life in Everblack, is just fucking pummeling, kind of deicide, sinister style death metal, perfect production for that, kind of lo-fi, but you can still hear everything, but not super slick or whatever, These guys, never really made it big. They were around up until, I think, the early 2000s, but this and their debut full length are really, really good stuff. So that was one of the newest acquisitions there. And then the next 2 are from the same band. Another band that played here probably at the end of September that I missed, but you've got Sheer Terror. We've got an EP and an album from Sheer Terror. So we've got Thanks for Nothing, which is their second album, and then this EP that followed it up, Old, New, Borrowed in Blue. So, if you don't know Sheer Terror, their first album, Just Can't Hate Enough is a goddamn classic. New York hardcore. But that album in particular had heavy in Celtic Frost influence. Like the guitar riffs, guitar sound on that record, total Celtic Frost worship. It totally sounds like Morbid Tales era Celtic Frost. These records, not as much. They definitely kind of come off as a little more typical New York hardcore, but I just think the songwriting is really good, and the vocalist Paul Bearer's lyrics are particularly poignant. It's just kind of more about being a fuck up and, you know, kind of a loser and kind of trying to get through life and deal with all the stress, anxiety, heartbreak and everything, you know. A lot of personal lyrics, so it's cool to get these. These were both really cheap. Sheer Terror is definitely one of my favorite New York hardcore bands, and I would highly recommend them to anybody that is looking to get into more New York hardcore. Kind of like stuff that has New York hardcore that has a little bit more metal leanings. Anyway, that's all I've got for you now. Just trying to blow the dust off here, get back into the fucking swing of things. I think my next video, I'm finally going to do Volume 2 of my collection, or Volume 2 of my Attack of the Clones. Fuck, man, I can't even speak tonight. Volume 2 of Attack of the Clones. I'm not going to tell you which band it's going to be, but hopefully in the next week or so I'll get that out to you. So have a happy Thanksgiving, and I will see you all in the Ninth Circle.